All right. Hey, Rod, if you don't mind, why don't we start with you real briefly? Let's just recap your homework that you gave everybody last week. I got to pull out this book that I was going to quote.
Well, as luck would have it here, I don't have that notebook in front of me. So you tell me, what was the homework that I assigned?
All right. We're all going to come up empty on this until I dig it back up. See, I was trying to buy myself a little bit of time too. Let's see.
I'll still go back to your homework because I know we had a lot of thumbs up on your homework, and that was, what are you good at?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, that's still some of the best homework, sticking with that motto. What are you good at? And finding ways to employ that, finding ways to monetize that.
Yeah. Well, look, here it is right here. If you have your notes from last week, which I do, Rod talked about crushing procrastination. One thing per day, set a deadline, and then tell the world, which, you start talking to people about what you're doing. There's nothing more powerful than accountability from your friends and relatives. So, and if you're on this call and you did not hear Rod's call last week, I took copious notes. That's why they're right in front of me. And I put a big black box around those 3 items I just mentioned, which were basically his homework. So, Rod, once again, good job. I see that Wayne's on. He's double tasking, maybe doing some pools while cleaning pools while he's listening to the call.
Okay. I want to say, Jim, but before you get started, this will buy you a little extra time too. Where I'm at is I have a blank notepad right here because I'm a member of Y.E.S tonight. I'm anxious for your call. I'm ready to take notes. So.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Hey, first thing, I do appreciate the members reaching out to me via text, the ones that couldn't be here tonight and past nights that we've had calls. I don't want you to feel accountable that you've got to text me. I really do appreciate that. You're accountable to yourself. You're an entrepreneur. You're a self-starter. I love that you're here. And if you're not here, I'm going to presume you're going to get your value from watching the videos. You're welcome to text me if you want, and I'll know where you're at, and I won't be waiting for your name to pop up or to call you out on something. But, again, I don't want you to feel this obligation if you can't be here or this guilt, because that's not what this is about. This is about giving you the tools to succeed with that guiltless tools. All right. So anyways, just wanted to throw that out there. Okay. This week's call is on personal values is the core value, and it's give and save. And I've got a little twist on that at the end, or throughout, I should say, but really the end is going to come with a bang. Brendan, I saw you just sign on. So grab yourself a notepad. All right, there's going to be a lot to talk about. And of course, if you don't have a notepad, you can watch the video later. So I like to start these videos or these meetings with a quote from Andy Frisella, because he's my guy. But I'm going to start it with somebody else who's also my guy. And this is a quote from the Warpath Alliance by Rod Kuntz. All right, so the quote, and this is, if you get his book, it's on page 166. And it's a core value objective here. It's called S is for selfless. Is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. That's by Seneca the Younger. Really what I wanted to bring about in his book here, or the quote that I wanted to talk about, is he goes on to say the most memorable individuals throughout history have been people who are in it for others, not themselves. I don't know how we go beyond that point of being demanding little creatures that want and need all of our personal needs met from others. At some point, it is normal and necessary to begin meeting our own needs and to start fulfilling the needs of others. Sometimes I suspect we learn it out of duty and obligation. Take out the garbage, do the dishes, help your sister. Give me a hand with this. Small steps that become more intentional and gain power when we start taking them because we want to fill a need and find satisfaction in pleasing others. All right, there's a lot more to that chapter there, but I just thought how appropriate that selfless is a part of giving. And that's part of our topic tonight. And one thing I'd like to teach everybody, and this is part of our principles here within the Y.E.S Syndicate, is giving, right? We've given you the opportunity to give somebody else a free membership. Okay. So through our giving, you're going to be able to give to somebody else. And by the way, giving inspires giving, right? And if you're a family man, you've got kids watching, or if you're a coach, or if you're a manager, supervisor, people notice. They see what you're doing. If you're giving, they know that you're a giver, and maybe they will be inspired to give more. Now, what I've seen in my life, and this is a principle that a lot of my peers talk about, David Meltzer, Ed Milet, Andy Frisella, the list goes on, is when you give, oftentimes you will receive 10x without expectation. And I'm not saying if I give something tomorrow to somebody that it's going to come back 10x the next day. But when you look at a period of time, a window of business opportunity that you've created these habits, you will see that that comes back to you. It's the nature of the world. So I would incorporate the practice of giving into your business mentality and your personal mentality. Make it a part of your 5 critical tasks, maybe to give back or give of yourself to others. Giving builds character, right? Again, people see the type of person you are. And if you're a giver, that's the type of character that you will have, right? And by the way, if you're a giver, the last thing people are going to expect of you to be is a taker. And who wants to do business with takers? In it for themselves, always trying to get the upper hand, wanting more for themselves. What you do in front of others is what you do in privacy. So if you're a taker in front of others, more than likely you're a taker behind closed doors. Same thing goes with giving, right? So giving builds character. Interesting book. And this is a little bit where this twist is, because tonight is on personal values, but I also want to give you some business values within the give and save. All right. I had the pleasure of meeting Y.E.S Nieto, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. You guys are going, who the hell's Y.E.S Nieto? Well, if you've ever been on the gym and you've gotten on a life cycle, right? The bike, Y.E.S was the one that generated the bikes across the nation, across the world, in all the gyms. He created life fitness and life cycles. He found a life cycle, the first version of it, in a place no one expected. He fell in love with it from a physical fitness standpoint and asked for the patent on it, used that patent to grow the life cycle business. And now you have, a version of a life cycle in every gym in the world, more than likely. Just got back from Guadalajara and there was a life cycle in that gym. What's interesting that Y.E.S points out in the book that he gave me, and again, probably 25, 30 years ago, is he says the expense of putting 50 free life cycles into the hands of people who might buy and deploy fleets of them seem modest relative to his investment in 400 bikes sitting in his warehouse. But when he did the math, the bikes that he gave away, the 50 bikes he gave away, netted at least 10 more bikes sold per bike, not to mention all the bikes that sold beyond that, right? So when you look at business and the opportunity to give, here's a great example by Y.E.S giving away some life cycles. This is in the 70s, right? And the value of that. Now, Y.E.S went on to have a very successful career, but he was also found with multiple sclerosis and ended his physical fitness life, but he was able to raise over $150 million for his cause in helping others with similar diseases. So he's lived a life worth living. He passed away a few years ago, but what a pleasure to meet somebody like that and learning the principles of giving in business equally in your personal life. Last thing I'll say about giving is that giving builds your business, as we just saw in that example, but it also can help you build test pilots, right? So maybe you've got a new program, maybe you've got a sales program, you believe in it, but you haven't proven the model. Well, how about giving that away to a couple customers for a period of time or indefinitely to those first initial customers to see if it works. And the value for value exchange is for them to share how it has worked and the value that they've gotten out of it, right? So now you're giving business or business model as a test pilot to receive back. Maybe you're giving away your product to a dozen people to see how it works, like the life cycle. So don't be afraid to give business to garner not only experience, feedback, but to gain other business from what you've given away. All right. So moving on to save. I have this principle. I learned it from a friend of mine, John. He always talked about what he did with his kids when they made money. $15 is the easy equation to reference, but he says, if my kid made $15, I teach my kid to save $5, spend $5 on something that they wanted, and then give away $5 to something with meaning, right? You can create your own math model, but what a great lesson to teach and a great lesson to learn is that give, save, and spend. And there's a lot of different models or percentages of that, but you get the idea, right? There's a little bit of a reward in each one. It's tough to work a 80-hour work week, get paid, and not have a little bit of reward for that at the end of the work week and kind of a refresh. But there's also a lot of reward in giving that away or a percentage of that away to somebody. Maybe you tithe at church or give to the homeless or the veterans, what have you. There's a lot of reward in that. And then saving some so that you can build up your coffers as it relates to your goals and your own personal initiatives. So give, save, spend. I want to talk a little bit about how to save effectively. The first example is eliminate debt. Okay, eliminate debt. And don't do that with more debt, by the way, unless it's really strategic. Okay, so eliminate debt. Start looking at ways that you can not be in debt. And the greatest reason for that is because it positions you to be in a better place personally, financially, whether that's to make a move as an entrepreneur, to take a new job, right? Or maybe you just need to take some time off because you got to switch careers and do something else, right? So try to eliminate debt, but don't do it with more debt. Rod talked about, if you're going to become an entrepreneur, we were answering a question from Eric, when's the right time to cut off your job and go into the next one? I had a great conversation with Eric, by the way, about his goals and what he wants to do. And Eric is in a great position based on what I heard from our conversation to be able to take advantage of his savings, his lack of debt, his personal position to go off and become that entrepreneur. So he's a perfect example of somebody that's done it the right way and poised himself to start a career. Now, when I say, not with more debt, you can consider a consolidation, right? Which is also important. Maybe you've got some credit cards and you want to consolidate with a second on your home. That could be an okay scenario if you've got the equity there and if it doesn't put you in the position taken away from your ultimate goals, right? So as an example, let's say you're on the tail end, you've got a regular income from 401k or pension, what have you, and you've ran up some credit cards, right? Well, getting a second on your home to pay off those credit cards and you only have a pension, you're going to put yourself back in a hole. Or if you're eating away at that value in your home, what are you going to do in an emergency, right? So be careful how you eliminate debt and also be careful how you consolidate debt, because you can put yourself in a position down the road, right? So really have some strategic thinking. By the way, the last thing you want to do is pay off your debt with a second on your home and then have to go back to work, especially if you're retired, right? Now you've just become a victim of your own consolidation. So when you look at things like that, really look at a strategy, what it means for you. Go back to your goals, right? What are your goals and your values say about the consolidation of that debt or the debt you had? Most importantly, try to eliminate all debt. Cash is king. Try to live in a cash life. All right. So within all that, the advice is to set a savings goal or a monthly amount to be set aside. Okay. I have an awesome example of this, which is my mom. When she was in her mid 50s, my mom had nothing, right? She was she's a recovered alcoholic. She's got 30 plus years in the system. She had nothing. And I said, Mom, we got to start saving for your retirement. Now, fortunately, she worked for Boeing, and there was a little bit of a pension plan, not much. So we started putting $50 a month away. 50. It's pennies now. $50 a month. But by the time she was retired and living on her own with not a lot, she got a little bit of money from this pension. That $50 a month turned into a snowball of money that she was able to live off between the two. Now she lives with us here in Montana in her own place. And basically she pays all of her own bills from the little bit of money that she was saving. So $50 a month. Now, that was the last 30 years. So nowadays, maybe that's $100 a month. But if you can create a small amount of money that you set aside, you'll be better prepared for down the road, right? So you can find some really conservative investments that you're not going to lose money on, but be able to put a little bit away each month. All right. Another way that you can help save money is get an app on your phone. We've all got smartphones. I use Truebill, and what Truebill does is it attaches to your bank account so that it can see everything that's going out, and it'll flush out all those dumb little subscriptions that you have that you've forgotten about. However long ago, I was on a music subscription. I totally forgot about it. I think it was $6.99 a month. Wasn't enough on my radar where it was bugging me, but how long have I been paying $6.99 a month and not using that app? A couple of years, right? That starts to add up for a while. And then I've noticed that Truebill will send me like little statements like, hey, this is higher this month than it was last month. And it forces me to look at the bill and see why it's higher, right? So there's a lot of apps like that you can get on your phone or your computer that'll help monitor where you're saving money. And by the way, if I was smart, I would take that $6.99 that I haven't noticed for 2 years or however long it was, and I just allocate that straight to my automatic savings account. Just add the $6.99. Or if Truebill found an extra $100 a month, and because I didn't notice it, just push it over towards what gets saved each month. I'd still be at the same place, but yet that money's going towards a saving instead of something that I'm not even paying attention to, right? Quick question from Eric. Would it be smart to invest a certain percentage of your savings into an investment account? Look, I'm not an investment advisor. I know it works for me. I want my money to work for me as often as possible. So I know the last couple of years, what I've done with some of my investment dollars or my savings dollars is reinvested them into myself, into an investment, right? Like this Y.E.S Syndicate invested back into something that I knew would have a higher return on my money than the 0.5% that the bank's giving right now, right? So you have to look at your own personal situation, what your capacities are. Eric, a good opportunity might be for you is to invest in yourself and your new business, especially at your age. By the way, age takes a major consideration in what you do and how you do it. And I don't think anybody's in this group, including myself, that doesn't have a lot of years left to go after something new, right? So if you believe in who you are and your capabilities, an investment in yourself is a smart investment in my eyes, especially with the banks being as bad as they are, the volatility of the investment markets, 401ks, et cetera. I've watched my daughter's 401ks just take a dump, and they're in extremely conservative markets, so thanks to this administration. All right, here's ways to save money. I'm going to give you, it's like 8 tips on how you can save money outside of what we've already talked about. So the first one is record your expenses. You can do that through the Truebill app, right? So that's an easy one. Find an app to record all your expenses. Include saving in your budget. So if you build out a budget, if it's $100 a month, that's your budget, whatever your number is, 10,005, whatever it is, build savings into your budget as well. So automatically, as you build out that budget, put a percentage off to savings so that becomes a part of your budget, not something you do at the end of the month when you're like, oh, I've got an extra $100. Do it in advance, just like maybe your tithing or your offerings or your giving, okay? The obvious one is find ways to cut spending. Now, I've talked about this since we started the Y.E.S Syndicate. This recession is real, okay? It's only going to get worse, especially as we go into election season. It goes for Canada as well. All right, Brendan, you're going to be on the hook too, everybody. The recession is going to get worse. Find ways to cut spending. Okay. We eliminated a couple extra horses on my property. We eliminated 2 cows on our property. We're looking for ways that we can save money on feed bills. Now, yeah, these all sound like luxuries, which they are. We don't have to have these animals, but even within our own financial situation, we're looking for ways to save money. And I would encourage you to do the same. It's going to get worse. Mark my words. Okay. All right. Set savings goals. So if you've got a budget and you've already put some savings in there, look at that as it would relate to a potential savings goal by the end of the year, and then maybe a 5-year, and then maybe a 10-year. Okay, so set savings goals, just like you set business goals or personal goals and all those other things, and know what your savings goal is for. If you achieve that, what are you going to do with it? What is the purpose and intent of it? Okay. Determine your financial priorities. This is a good one. I like to go out to dinner. My wife doesn't. My kids don't either, because all they eat is pasta. We can make that here. But I like to go out to dinner, have a good cocktail, and enjoy the atmosphere, right? That's not a financial priority, especially if I just talked about how we should find ways to cut spending, so I constantly am finding myself going, hey, should we go out? Oh yeah, I need to cut ways of spending. I'm not going to ask if we should go out to dinner, right? So just determine what your financial priorities are. If it's cutting back a dinner, going out, or some drinks on Friday night, or a splurge, Starbucks, whatever coffee shop you go to. I can't believe how much those drinks are these days. They're like $6 or $7 for those ones I see everybody walking around with the whipped cream and the long straws, like a 40 ouncer. So determine your financial priorities. Okay. If you are saving, again, I'm not your financial advisor, but pick the right tools, whether that's a savings account, CDs, securities, raw goods like gold and silver, or it's a mix of all the above. I would highly recommend anybody on this call, and I don't know if we've got any of the teenagers on here, but I would recommend anybody on this call getting a financial advisor and working with a professional to start looking at what tools you can save money, even if it's that $50 a month. Okay. My daughter, both my daughters, I started accounts with them with my financial planner day one, the day they were born. Within the first couple of weeks, I met with them. I said, hey, here's a lump sum to start. We're going to put a little bit of money in every month. And, by the way, I'm going to put a little extra in each month just because I'm not going to notice it. Right. So find the right tools. If you don't have an advisor, ask around. I have one I love. He's in Laguna Beach. I'm happy to introduce you to him, but this isn't about who I'm using. It's about you finding somebody that fits your personality and what your needs are, and start picking the right tools to do it. You won't regret it. Going back to that tool that I talked about with my mom, making savings automatic. Make savings automatic. Use my mom's story as an example, right? She had enough money to survive right now. Okay. All right. Now, the fun part, and the last one of those bullet points, is watch your savings grow. It's inspiring to see your savings grow over time. The money that both of my daughters have, after consistent, persistent investing every month since the day they were born, my 6-year-old and my 8-year-old, watching their dollar amounts go, it's like, wow, these girls are going to have a lot of money by the time they turn 18. I wonder how they'll use it. I got a little extra money, throw it in their account. That'll be fun. Then all of a sudden you're like, hey, they're at 30 grand. Are they at 38,500? Wouldn't that be cool if they were at 40? Boom. Put a little extra money in there. Yeah, they made it to 40. So watch your savings grow and be inspired by what's happening, right? Okay. So that's my speech on personal values, give and save, but that's not the heat I'm bringing. So don't put your papers and your pens down. Okay. Okay. Jim with his $18 fancy cocktails. Yes, I do have $18. I'll tell you what, at the Ritz restaurant downtown Kalispell, cocktails $14 there, right? That's Montana, and they're good too, by the way. All right, now we're going to get into some business fire. There's no way I wasn't going to give you guys something As I learn things, I want to throw them your way in these lessons. Here's the second message. Write this in bold. Be prepared for the call. Okay, be prepared for the call in parentheses. What do I mean by that? If you're following the principles of the Y.E.S Syndicate, if you're building your core values, if you're taking notes and you're working these programs, if you're doing the homework that Rod gave you last week, right? That is being prepared for the call. All right. Most of you know now that I was in the tequila business for 10 years. Prior to that, I was a vice president of a marketing company for 10 years. And when I left both those businesses, I was kind of tapering out of that business. But I've always talked about my business acumen. I've always talked about what I've been doing. I've consulted companies to come to the U.S. with new brands of tequila. I haven't overly promoted. A lot of you follow me on my social media channels. I don't over promote what I do. It's mainly kind of referral, what have you. I received a call a week and a half from a colleague, somebody of value in my life that is an extremely high net worth individual. And he called and he said, Jim, are you still doing the tequila thing? I said, well, I'm consulting in tequila. So yeah. He says, I'd like to hire you to do something for me. Right. So I was prepared for the call. We went to Guadalajara 4 days ago, came back last night at midnight. I learned so much from my time with this person. I am deeply inspired by the time that I spent and what I learned from him, but also inspired from me being prepared and ready for that call. And he was able to, in a moment, hire me. And what I mean by that is because I was prepared, when he called me, he said, look, this is what we want to do in brief. What do you think? I said, yes, I can do it. But let me send you a contract of exactly what I can offer to you, how, why, what it's going to cost, what the steps are, and how we can do this together. You decide if it's a good fit for you. Because I knew I could do what he wanted me to, right? He called me back within a couple hours. And that's how, top level 10X thinkers do it, right? They know what they want. They look at it. They'll call you back in a couple hours. They're not going to deliberate for a week. Call me back within a couple of hours. He goes, Jim, you got the job. I'll sign the contract. Let's get going. When can we go to Mexico? Right. And I said, well, when can you guys go? And he says, as soon as you can. And that's how we operated, right? Because I was prepared for the call. Okay. Now there's a lot more to go with that. And I'm not going to get into all the details of our weekend, but I will say this. Because of the platform that I laid, the values that I have, my ability to articulate those values to him over the weekend. And granted, it was a very unique situation. We were basically together 12 hours a day for 4 days outside of sleeping, right? I was able to articulate all those things I stand for. Before I left him yesterday afternoon, he asked me if I would be interested in doing another job with him outside the tequila business, right? So the foundation led to even more than what I thought, right? By the way, I gave him a good deal because I know his net worth. I know what he's capable of. I know his history. I know where he can go. And I thought if I can get in business with him, it may lead to other things. And the last thing he said on the way out of the car, dropping me off at the airport, was, hey, I'd like to get on a call with this other person to see if you can help over there, right? So be prepared for the call. Now, to bring some value to that and some notes to that and some direction to that, on my flights, I finally got around to reading at least half of Ed Milet's new book. I posted this on my social media if you're paying attention, The Power of One More. Brendan's got his thumbs up. Did you read it?
Chapter 10.
Chapter 10. All right. This is going to be a recap for you, Brendan, but this is what I got out of it. And I'm not going to wait another week to give the group what I've learned or what I've garnered out of it halfway through the book. And I think you'll appreciate it. And I'd love to talk to you afterwards on another time to hear what you're getting out of it. But Power of One by Ed Milet. Winning is a numbers game. And I love that. It's just like the sales call, right? If you call on 10 accounts, call on one more because it's a numbers game. You're going to get that yes. Okay. Every no leads to a yes. Right. And I know that that's old school business talk, motivational speak, but that is the reality. Every no will eventually lead to that yes. So please be inspired by your no's. If you're out there, as an example, if you've got a PR agency and you're looking to grow your business because you want to make more money, every no is going to lead to a yes. So be inspired by those no's because that yes is right around the corner. I love the example that he read. It's like a piñata, right? Anybody ever hit a piñata? Got the piñata hanging. You got the line of kids. Each kid walks up and bangs that piñata. Next one bangs that piñata. Next one bang. Eventually, somebody banging that piñata is going to blow it up. It wasn't that last shot that actually blew it up. It was all the shots leading up to it that weakened it for it to explode, right? Now, maybe it was a good hit, right? But you get the point, right? Chipping away at the nose will get you to that yes, or that piñata blowing up, and then you get the prize, which is the candy. All right. And I'm going to read out bullet points so that you understand kind of where I'm coming from instead of reading the whole book and all the chapters. The highest achievers always condition themselves to do one more. Okay. This class tonight, this Zoom call is a perfect example. I could have stopped 4 minutes ago, opened it up to Q&A. I covered my, give and save routine, and I thought I did a decent job of it. But nope, I'm going to give you one more. I'm going to give you a whole other lesson tonight, right? So the highest achievers always condition themselves to do one more. Think about that, right? Whether you're working out or you're trying to eat healthy, be healthy one more day. You call on one more customer. Do whatever it is. Higher achievers condition. That's the key word. Condition yourself to do one more. Okay, I love this. Okay, you're giving all you got. You're giving one more. You're exhausted. When you empty yourself, you leave room for new experiences, goals, efforts, and opportunities. And the quote by Bruce Lee is, empty your cup so that you may be filled. And I love that metaphor, right? You're out giving it everything you got. You've exhausted yourself. Now you're open to more because you've done that. You've crossed over another barrier in your life. It's like running. If you've never ran a marathon, when you're training, the right training will tell you never run more than 21 miles in training. Because once you've hit the 20, that 26.2, you're not going to do it again. So always condition yourself to be ready for that push. Okay. So give it one more, In the marathon training example, you get to 21. Now you're ready to give it that big, hard push all the way to 26.2 miles. It's there. It's in the tank. You give it, you'll have it. So condition yourself, empty your tank, and be ready to do one more, right? This resonated with me. One of my early guests on the podcast, his name was Andy Hill. Most of you wouldn't know who that is, but Andy Hill was on the basketball team at UCLA the same time that Bill Walton was on the basketball team with John Wooden. Andy Hill eventually wrote John Wooden's biography and all the books there, that are endorsed by John Wooden. Andy went on to become the president of CBS television channel and was responsible for all those late night TV shows that Rod and I and Fred might have grown up with, like Happy Days and all that crap. So anyways, Andy talks about, John Wooden's sayings, and his saying is, if you don't have time to do it right, when will you have time to do it again? If you don't have time to do it right, when are you gonna have time to do it again? Probably never. So do it right the first time. What Ed talks about is fine-tuning all your techniques, your plans, your goals, your businesses, your job, your personal life, your workouts, etc. If you don't do it right the first time, when do you have time to do it, right? And I love that because in this class, we're talking about your values, your goals, your foundational elements that will propel you to the next level, whether that's in business or in life. So take the time to do this foundational work and then use these little tips to take yourself to the next level, right? This is also a great one. Assess yourself and your objectives often. Now, he references looking at his business for the week. Sunday, what do I need to accomplish for the week? And on Friday night, what did I do good? How can I go into the weekend? I've talked about before my yellow pad. It's full of notes because I've been gone for 4 days. I do my yellow pad every day. So after this call, when I wrap up my day, I will rewrite my objectives for tomorrow, and I'll bullet point the 5 that I need to accomplish per, my 5 critical tasks. And I'll know exactly where I'm at the end of tonight. When I get up tomorrow, I get to my office, I know exactly what I got to start on, right? In Ed's world, he talks about maybe do it Friday and then Sunday nights, be prepared for the week. We talked about doing this call on Sunday nights because of that habit that both Rod and I have. But then we thought, no, we don't want to burden you on the weekends and your family and all that. So we got it as close as we could. That's why we do this on Monday night. So there's a little method behind this madness, right? So set your objectives for the week, recap them, whether that's daily or at the end of the week, and be prepared for the next. Okay, got a few more here, and then I'll take some questions. And a few more, I mean 6 more. All right, I've got a Darwin quote about time. A man who dares waste 1 hour of time has not discovered the value of life. Okay, a man who dares to waste 1 hour of time doesn't value the time of life. Now, I'm going to embarrass myself for the purpose of this exercise. Most of us probably have an iPhone without saying it, but I will. We all know where the biggest time suck is in this century. Social media. Okay. So what's my social media look like today? 4.53 hours today. 26 minutes of productive time. Of that 4.53 hours, 1.3 of it is Instagram, 57 minutes of messages, and 22 minutes of mail. Now, I'm not going to use this as an excuse. Maybe my kids were on my phone for a little bit, but that's probably my reality, right? Got up early this morning. I was tired from flying in late last night, and just was, scrolling, seeing what everybody, I didn't have service in Mexico. So just scrolling, seeing what a waste of time. What a waste of time. I will never get that time back. By the way, yesterday I was on social media for 2.5 hours. Okay. So my point is, embarrassing myself, don't waste time. Allocate your time for good purposes. I guarantee I'll be looking at my social media this week a little differently so that I can create something instead of just warp my brain with what's going on out there. That's what happens when you're in politics. You leave the country for a week and you want to know where you got to catch back up at or what's happened. All right. The next bullet point is emotions. Focus on the right ones in your mind and the bad ones will deconstruct. Now, I've talked about the power of positive thinking. My quote, what you believe is what you will achieve. Put these thoughts in your mind versus the negative ones. Don't dwell on the emotions that have taken you down in the past. Literally, get rid of those thoughts. They don't define you. They're not who you are. Okay. We talk about emptying yourself, right? Being able to give a little bit more and filling yourself with something else. Emotions are the perfect things to empty yourself because those emotions will hold us back. I'm not good enough. I can't succeed. I've been told that this idea isn't a good idea, right? I'm worried. All these emotions, you will eventually become just that. Okay. Change your emotional level of thinking. Matter of fact, next bullet point was, what are the 5 or 6 emotions you want to experience on a daily basis? Okay. Procrastination. It's not necessarily emotion, but it's a place you put yourself in, right? You could become a procrastinator. The example that Ed gives, it's pretty clear, and how you can motivate yourself to change your way of thinking. His example is, let's just say you're in college, and maybe you are. You get assigned a project that's due in 2 weeks, and you put it on the top shelf. You're going into the weekends, like, I got 2 weeks. Go to the weekend, you party Friday, party Saturday, Sunday, you're exhausted. Maybe you got some chores to do. Now it's Monday again. That project's still lingering on the top shelf. You get through the week because you got a bunch of stuff to do. Next thing you know, it's the next weekend. Well, we got to party again or ride your horse or whatever it is. Now we're down to the wire. We've got less than 5 days to get that essay done or whatever it might be. We all know, we've all been there. You ramp up those efforts. You fight late at night to get it done. You tell everybody how stressed you are because you got this big project to do. You didn't tell them you just wasted 2 weekends partying and doing what you wanted to do, but you want everybody to know you're stressed. All of a sudden, Thursday night, you finish the essay at midnight, you get to school on Friday, you turn it in, you're like, whoo, I barely made it. But you had enough gas in the tank to do that the last couple days. And what Ed's talking about, and I agree 100%. I've done this on occasions. I wish I could do it more regularly. What Ed's talking about is take that gas in the tank that you used those last 24 hours to get that essay done. Treat every day like that. Be efficient. Make your emotions those of efficiency and get it done and success. Feel that. Remember what that feels like to turn in that assignment, when you grinded it out. Yeah, you procrastinated, but in your mind, hey, I did a good job. I knocked it out last minute, 4 hours, I did the job, right? Have that confidence, bring those emotions to the forefront. So what are your 5 or 6 emotions you want to experience on a daily basis? 3 more, and I'm going to open it for questions. I'll just close this call down. We'll be done. All right. This is an important one. And I learned this one a long time ago. And this could be one of the most difficult challenges in your life. Okay. But it's important. Your relationships define you. To succeed in life, your peer group standards must align with your own. Like it or not, you are the sum of your relationships and you are judged for it. Take a look around, including toxic family members. Okay. I did this a long time ago. I'd tell it to his face, but I've got a brother that lives out in Lake Havasu. He was toxic to me. Okay. He was an alcoholic. He was abusive to people. He was a fighter. He was in and out of jail, always complaining about how terrible his life was, in and out of jobs. And I literally had to disconnect myself from that toxicity. It was a hard thing to do, but hard because I loved him. It's my brother, right? But I could not have him as a part of my peer group, right? And I've gone through life realizing that I've shed peer groups over the years. And often I've been bewildered, like, wow, what happened to those people? Where did they go? What are they doing now? Why am I not friends with them anymore? But what I've realized is that I've progressed to a point where those friends might not fit where my objectives are who I am, or what I represent. Another equal example, 2 years ago, we had some friends here where we live. And when I got on the school board, those friends flipped on us. Okay. Meaning, they didn't believe in our policies or who we were, in my case, as a Christian and a person of faith and a conservative, right? I wasn't in a position before for them to know all those things about me. And that was only a part of our relationship together. But once all that fleshed out, they no longer were our friends. And looking back, it was like, wow, you know what? They really didn't align with me in the first place. I'm surprised that we became friends with them. But now that I'm more open with my values, who I am and where I'm going, I've been able to attract like-minded friends that are going to the same direction. And, when I look at this group, especially Rod as my business partner and Rachel, if she was on the call, I look at how aligned I am with their principles and their beliefs and where they're going. And I know that I've selected my right peer group. Okay. So don't forget, you're the sum of your peer group. What people think about your peer group is what they're going to think about you, right? Going back to my weekend, I was so inspired by this couple that I was with. They were celebrating 30 years of marriage. They do everything together. And what they do it right. They're articulate about it. They're forward and upfront about what their expectations are. Okay. They know exactly who they are and where they want to go and what they want to be. It was easy for them to tell me that. It was just as easy for me to tell them back what I could and couldn't do for them. Right. So for me, coming back from that weekend, I inspired to be more like them they elevate me. So constantly look to elevate your own peer group, right? So like I said, that could be one of the hardest things or one of the best lessons in your life. You want to be successful in business, surround yourself with people that want the same. Again, it's what I love about this group. Everybody on this group wants more out of their life, and that's why they're here. And that's also why we have the directory. You can tap into other people in this group and know that you're in a safe zone, right? Know that you're in a safe zone of other people that are like-minded, at least from an entrepreneurial standpoint. All right. Along that point, be honest about what you need out of people. I've seen, like I said, people come and go out of my relationships, oftentimes exposing what they were using me for also. All right. And that goes back to paying some dummy tax. I've had what I felt were good friends, but in hindsight, I look back and I go, wow, they were just using me for something. And it happens, we're blinded by what we feel like is a friendship. You look back and we're like, wow, that was pretty shallow. The second the spigot turned off, they were no longer there, right? They moved on to the next person to use them for something. So be honest about what you need from people and look at your own relationships. Okay. And then finally, and I'll take some questions or comments from Rod. Maybe Rod, you can get ready for that. Finally, give yourself permission to dream and dream big. Okay. Again, coming back from my weekend, I'm not going to say a lot about these people, but I am inspired. The home that I stayed in was probably the nicest, most luxurious house I've ever stayed in my 54 years. They just won an award for the most tech house in the world, the most tech house in the world. Sonos speakers, cameras, computer systems, the whole bit. And trust me, every bit of it was that right on the beach in Mission Beach. And it was an absolutely incredible experience. Right. But when I'm sitting there and I went for a walk along the beach, looking at other houses that none of which compared, right. They're probably all, 10, 20, $30 million homes. And I just gave myself permission to dream and dream big. Now, I don't want to live on the beach. I did affirm that I'm okay not being at the beach anymore in my life, but I did give myself permission to look bigger than what I'm doing now. And I want everybody here to have that same permission to dream big. And I'm going to leave it with some advice that David Meltzer gave me when I talked about wanting to donate $100,000 to the orphanages in Baja a few years ago. And Dave says, Jim, that's pretty cool. I know Wayne's on this call. He's seen a lot of the people that we've supported down in Baja firsthand. So is Fred. Fred, you've spent a lot of time down there. Dave says to me, hey, Jim, why $100,000? Why not be the biggest donor from the United States to the orphanages in Baja? I thought, wow, I limited myself. And that's exactly what Dave said. He goes, don't have limiting beliefs in yourself, right? So dream big. All right, that wraps up the call for me. Rod, if you want to weigh in, and then I'll take questions if anybody wants to tap in some questions.
I do want to weigh in. First, Jim, thank you very much. I think it's more relevant always when we can relate something that we've just learned, because it's fresh in our mind. We're enthusiastic and passionate about it. And that's the most fertile ground for us, and it will be for others. So thanks for being willing to shift gears like that. I think it's awesome and necessary. So I heard something, actually read something on social media, and I don't spend a lot of time there. And so I am curious, if I don't close out of that app, does it still count? Is it still clicking as time?
I don't know.
I need to know that, because I'm terrible about leaving apps open, So anyway, it said this, it said, takers eat better, but givers sleep better.
Yeah.
And I mean, you got to be able to live with yourself, and it's not all, I've said this before, it's not about the money. If you're here just Entrepreneur Syndicate and you think it's just about the money, you're missing the point. So it's definitely more than that. Second, I wanted to say, it's so funny that, what you brought up in the first part of this, my wife and I just finished an insurance audit, for our house and cars and stuff. And we're saving $50 a month. It was just, let's take a look. It's been a few years. Everything's been fine. Let's just take another look out there. And all you have to do is put the word out there and, 50 people will jump all over you wanting to give you quotes, but it saved us $50. So, it's amazing where you can find money and savings when you look. And I wanted to share this, and I know I've shared it with you, Jim. My wife and I, we always had what was called a frivolous account. You might call it a fancy drink account, a cocktail account, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's okay to, as long as you're budgeting it, it's okay to be frivolous, but budget that, right? You don't want to go, if you like, I don't know, online poker or something, you don't want to go beyond a budget. If you get enjoyment out of playing live poker or something like that, you have to still treat it as a business expense, or it should come out of your recreation budget, your entertainment budget, budget for those frivolous things. But we did that because we knew that it was, sometimes you want to do something impromptu and you need to just be able to do that. So give yourself permission to be frivolous, because you will feel better. Okay. That you don't have, shouldn't be a burden, right? That's why a lot of people burn out when they're in business for themselves. They don't give themselves permission for that. The other thing is, I always like to carry some cash, even if it's just a little cash. And we're a cashless society anymore. I'd stopped on a vacation recently to get coffees for my wife and I, frivolous, right? And I handed the lady my debit card. She said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't take cards." This was in Eastern Montana. So I don't take cards. And she said, "But you can bring cash back later." And I said, "All right, I'll see you later," right? So I had to get cash from my daughter to go back and pay the lady for my frivolous coffee. But that's my bad. I usually carry cash. And my wife and I also prefer to tip in cash. It's easy to just write, your 20%, on the bottom of the thing. I like to hand cash to people because it's an immediate reward. They're not waiting till the end of the shift to clock out. It's cash. It's up front. So those are just little things, but to me they matter, and I'm old school enough that that's it. And then the last thing I want to say is dream big, Jim. You and I shared my dream big with you. Jim and I have a vision to have a Y.E.S, Young Entrepreneur Syndicate campus up here in Montana. We're talking huge ranch where people can come and stay. They can stay for a week to decompress. They can stay for months and take daily classes. We've already dreamed big. We're dreaming big. And that's important because this is just one step along the way. And again, you've remotivated me, Jim. I needed that tonight. I came with a blank piece of paper and I filled them all up. So thank you for that. You brought the heat. And if you're speaking to me, I know you're speaking to everyone else too. So.
Right on. Thanks, Rod. I already brought up Eric earlier. We had a great conversation last week. Eric, I hope your Friday night went as planned. You can put in the comments if it was a yes. Fred, you got a question?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you can finish up. I don't know if you still have a comment for Eric.
No, go ahead. Love to take it.
So just wanted to throw this out there. Obviously, you and I go way back, and I've appreciated you from day one. You've probably helped me out of probably one of the darkest spots I've ever been in my life after the business went sideways. So I'll just say it publicly. Thank you. And it's much appreciated. But I would say one of the biggest challenges I have right now is trusting people. And you talk about we talk about elevating our group. And so most of the people I've dealt with in business, most people want something out of you. You know what I mean? Whether it's your talent, they think there's an opportunity, so on and so forth. And a lot of people I've met out there, the users, the takers, the just get alongers who aren't going anywhere. It's just party 7 days a week, which it's not my jam.
Yeah.
I like to have fun. Don't get me wrong. And then there's the guys that are wolves in sheep clothing, the straight up crooks, you know what I mean? That was my last business partners that really did a doozy. So, I found myself trying to find a better group of people because I like being in these groups, your group. Obviously, I'm a part of Lions, Not Sheep. And, I like to it motivates me when I see people win, when people are goal oriented and we're chasing something together. And I have a good friend, George Coronas, who lives out here. And while we're not the best of friends, we don't hang out every weekend, we're still really good business friends. The guy's always chasing and learning and winning. And so I lean on him. I'll reach out to you on occasion. That's how I ended up on this call. But in building that group of friends, like that, just kind of elevating your status, what do you recommend? I've been doing more, like being more active in Lions Not Sheep. So I'm contributing more to that group. I plan on contributing more here, but just looking for advice. Cause like I said, there's my quick laundry list of the people you encounter and what you would recommend in building that circle.
Yeah, Fred, good question. And thanks for the compliment. Was always happy to be there for you. Started with a business relationship years ago and developed into a friendship and a shoulder that you could lean on. So always happy to be there for you. The thing is, there's always a concern about trust and who you surround yourself with. It's funny because I just did a post the other day on social media. In my 4.5 hours I was on there, I did one post. No, I said, how you treat your server at the restaurant is how you treat everybody, right? I used to, when I was at Kettle One, I had a $2 million budget to donate to charities, okay? And trust me, my phone rang every day off the hook. I had an assistant that just answered those calls. And the ones that I was serious about, I always took them to lunch, okay? And I sat there and observed how they treated the server. Literally, that was my intent of taking them to lunch, because how they treat that server is how they treat other people, right? Now, I'm not asking you to just take everybody that you're going to do business with or person you meet to see if you trust them. You got to take them out to lunch, but it's an exercise in observation, right? Who are they really? How do they treat people? Andy Frisella says, this is a classic one too. And you're a Lions Den guy. Maybe you've heard this before, but Andy says, I know everything there is to know about a person that leaves piss on the toilet seat, right? He's selfish. He doesn't care about others. He certainly doesn't care about where he's at. He just pisses on the seat and walks away, right? Now, what Andy says, which I think maybe he's taking it just a little too far. He says he walks in, if there's pee on the seat, he'll clean it in a public restroom, and his point is he cares about other people. He cares about the next person, even the person that's going to arrive in a public bathroom, right? So Fred, I think become an observer of the people that you want to spend your time with, are people that you want to associate with, are people you want to do business with, before you actually get into business with them. And at that point, you'll know who they are, right? I want to commend you for getting more involved in Lions Den. There's a large group of people there. I've made several friends there. Now they're starting to meld together because I made a lot of friends in Arte, but also Lions Den. Brendan, met you, one of those two groups. I don't even remember which one now, but Fred, just be cautious, but be open. Okay. Be open to receive. And I would say probably the most important thing is be authentic to who you are while meeting these people. Don't put on a front of something that you're not. Let me give an example. By the way, we're at 1 hour. If you want to bounce off, you can catch the tail end of this, but I don't want to cut this good question short in the answer. Be as authentic to whom you are. And this is an example. Let's just say you gave off the impression that you were worth a bunch of money, right? Where you live, your car you drive, the things you have, and you want to start a business and you're meeting with some people. And their first thought is, hey, this guy's got a bunch of money. I want some of that, right? So now all of a sudden they're faking it to make it with you. And maybe you don't have a bunch of money. And down the road, you both come up empty handed. You've used each other for something that neither one of you have, right? So always be authentic who you are. The easy example right now is your belief in God and conservative politics, right? Because if you're authentic with those and people follow you, clearly you're aligned. So be authentic with who you are as well, because you're not going to run the risk of somebody trying to use you for something that you're not. Okay. So that's probably the best advice I can give you. Clearly, when you look at our relationship, you know who I am, what I represent. I've always given, and you've always given, and look at 3.5 years later, 4 years later, whatever the number is, we realize exactly where each of us stand. Okay. Hopefully that helps.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Before we go, unless there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. I want to affirm Raquel, and if she wants to say something, that's great. If not, no worries. But Raquel was struggling with her business and where she wanted to go. And I've told her for a while, even before she got into this, is, hey, build your business plan out, build your roadmap, right? Start with your roadmap. And I think she was overcomplicating in her head. And in the last week and a half, she's really dove in. And the message that I got from her is that she's on the right path now. So Raquel, really a good job for doing the work right now.
Watching your videos has helped. I'm a little shy, just kind of like observing everything, but your videos have helped, like reaching out to 5 people a day. That actually, I mean, it helped out. I actually closed something just by reaching out and doing my email marketing and doing everything that I've been wanting to do. I think I overthink things a lot. Thank you. And then also about the no's lead to a yes. There was this one band. So I work with a lot of rock bands and metal bands, and I wrote this proposal for this guy a few months ago, and I hit him up every month, what's going on. And he's like, we're not ready. Our numbers aren't there, but late December. Then I called him, following up. But anyways, he hit me up yesterday out of the blue saying that he wants to meet this week because he's doing a concert at the Roxy. So just staying on top of people's minds, I think. And you never know when they're going to say yes, but you got to be ready. So.
Well done. Well done. Thank you for being persistent. Build out that business plan. I will tell everybody in this group, the biggest grinder in this group is Wayne. So Wayne, you're probably cleaning a pool right now because you're grinding away listening to this, but you guys want to connect with somebody that's got an incredible personality, that's funny, that doesn't necessarily have to work a lot of the hours that he's working, but he's just out there hustling, is Wayne. He's in the directory. Have some fun. Wayne, sorry, I'm going to dump that on you, but man, I love the time I spend with you and what you bring to the table. So I'll leave it at that. Directory's there for a reason. All right, everybody. Thank you for tonight. I'm looking forward to Rod's presentation next week. As you know, if you need something during the week, reach out to us. We're here for you. There's some new notes arriving in the back end. And don't be surprised if some more videos show up there as I continue to get inspired reading Ed's book. I'm only halfway, and I had 30 minutes of conversation with y'all about that. So have a wonderful week. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Appreciate it.